Hey there. So, do you think history is just memorizing a bunch of boring dates? Well, think again. Today, we're going to treat history like what it really is, the single greatest detective story ever told. And we're going to give you the tools you need to solve the ultimate mystery, the story of the human past. So yeah, grab your magnifying glass. Our investigation starts right now.
First up, I've got a question for you. I want you to think back, like way back. What is the very first thing you can actually remember? Was it a birthday party, your first day of school? How old were you? Maybe 5 or 6? Just kind of hold that thought in your head for a second.
You know that memory you're thinking of? That's your own personal history. But here's the catch with memories. They're fuzzy, right? They can change over time. And my memory of something might be completely different from yours. So if we can't even perfectly rely on our own memories from just a few years ago,
Then how on earth do we know what people were doing hundreds or even thousands of years ago? I mean, we can't exactly interview them. We can't use our memories. So what's the secret? That is the big mystery we are cracking open today. All right, here's our game plan. First, we're going to frame history as a great mystery. Then, we'll dive into finding clues and figuring out how to put them in order with the clock of history. After that, we'll meet the expert detectives on the case, and finally, we'll see how it all comes together to tell the human story. Okay, detective hats on. When you picture a historian, you might think of someone surrounded by dusty old books, right? But the reality is so much more exciting. The study of history is really an active investigation. It's a hunt for evidence to piece together what really happened. Every great historian is part detective, and the crime scene, well, it's the entire human past. So, where does any good detective start? By searching for clues, of course. For a historian, these clues aren't fingerprints or anything like that. They're what we call sources. All the bits and pieces of the past that have somehow miraculously survived to this day.
Think of it like a giant jigsaw puzzle. You've got all these different kinds of clues. There are archaeological sources, physical things like tools and buildings. Then you've got literary sources, like ancient books. And there are even oral sources, like stories and songs passed down through families. Each and every piece gives us a totally different angle on the past.
Let's zoom in on those archaeological sources for a second. On the left, you've got the detective in action, an archaeologist carefully digging up the past. And on the right, that's the treasure they find, a coin that might have passed through hundreds of hands, or a sculpture that someone once prayed to. These aren't just old objects, they're like little moments frozen in time. And it's amazing what these clues can tell us. A simple piece of a clay pot can tell us about daily life, maybe even about trade routes. Little tiny burnt grains can tell us what was for dinner thousands of years ago. Coins, they unlock entire economic systems. And sculptures show us what people thought was beautiful or holy. The point is, every single object tells a story.
Now, beyond physical things, we have words. Literary sources are the written records, stuff carved into stone or written on palm leaves. But you have to remember, for a lot of human history, things weren't written down. Instead, history was passed down verbally through oral sources, like folklore and epic songs. These were basically the libraries for societies before everyone could write. Okay, so now we have this mountain of clues. Pots, coins, stories, texts. But a pile of clues isn't a story, right? A detective has to put them in the right order to make sense of it all. And to do that, historians need a very special tool, a timeline. This is basically the clock of history. A timeline is just a way to arrange events so you can see what happened first. This one uses the birth of Jesus as a kind of center point. Everything before that is counted backwards, and everything after is counted forwards. See how the birth of Buddha in 560 BCE comes before Jesus' birth? The timeline makes that sequence of events super clear. And the system most of the world uses is BCE and CE. BCE stands for Before Common Era, and it's like a countdown to year 1. So, 300 BCE happened before 200 BCE. Then you have CE, or Common Era, which is what we use now, counting up from year 1. So right now, we're living in the 21st century CE. Okay, here's a classic historical brain teaser that trips a lot of people up. How many years pass between the year 1 BCE and the year 1 CE? You might think it's 2, right? But nope, it's actually only 1 year. That's because there is no year 0 in this system. So whenever you're calculating time between a BCE and a CE date, you add the numbers together, and then, this is the important part, you have to subtract 1. It's a crucial little trick for any history detective.
You know, a great detective almost never works alone. And solving the mystery of the entire human past, that is definitely a team sport. Historians might be the lead investigators, but they rely on a whole crew of specialists, each with their own unique skill set. Let's meet the team.
Just look at this lineup. You've got geologists who can read the story of the Earth itself, paleontologists who study ancient life, anthropologists who explore human cultures, and, of course, the archaeologists we met earlier, digging up the past. It's a real all-star team.
So let's break down what they do. A geologist can tell us what the climate was like by looking at layers of soil. A paleontologist can look at fossils and tell us what plants and animals lived nearby. An anthropologist helps us understand how people might have lived together. And the archaeologist finds the stuff they left behind. It's all this teamwork that turns a bunch of random clues into a story that makes sense.
So we have the clues, we have the timeline, and we have the expert team. Now for the most important part of all, putting everything together to actually tell the story. Let's see how this works by looking at the very beginning of the human story. For hundreds of thousands of years, a really long time, our ancestors, Homo sapiens, lived like this. They were hunters and gatherers, constantly moving around in small groups. And how do we know this? Well, we know from archaeological clues like stone tools and animal bones, and also from anthropological studies of modern groups who live in similar ways.
And then, something massive happened. The world itself changed. Evidence from our geology and paleontology detectives shows us that around 12,000 years ago, the planet's thermostat got turned up. The last great ice age ended. And this wasn't just a change in the weather. This was a total game changer that would reshape human history forever. And this picture right here captures the incredible result. With a warmer, more stable climate, humans made one of the biggest leaps in our entire history. They started to settle in one place and grow their own food. This is the dawn of agriculture. This is the invention that led to villages, then to cities, and to totally new ways of living together.
I love this quote because it really gets to the heart of what we've been talking about. History isn't just a set of cold, dead facts locked away in a book. It's a constant conversation. We ask questions from where we stand today, and we listen for answers from the clues the past has left behind. And when we find new clues or ask new questions, the story can actually change.
So, to wrap up our case, let's bring it all back to you. You are creating historical sources every single day. Your social media posts, the photos on your phone, the things you write or create, all of that stuff, those are the clues that a future historian might use to understand what life was like for us today. So, think about it. What story are you leaving behind?